Baba Yaga returns to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Will Diego Pavia complete the sweep against Hugh Freeze, or will the Tigers be able to silence the Commodores? Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything that we will see this weekend as Vanderbilt takes on Auburn in what is going to be an instant classic. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification down below, and of course the subscribe button, because this is your #1 source for all things SEC moving forward. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on all the social channels: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Make sure that you follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Go to RHOBACK.com and use the promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. Fall foliage is right around the corner. The weather is changing. You want to get a nice pullover, a nice new jacket, joggers, polos, hoodies, shorts, whatever fits your bill for the final month of college football. Do so at RHOBACK.com and use the promo code SECU for 20% off. Dave, two teams that are trending in different directions after last week. Does not mean that this is the outlook for the remainder of the year, but Vanderbilt playing a close call, near comeback fashion win against Texas at home. Diego Pavia, we have to see him utilize his arm more so than his legs in this matchup. And then on the flip side, Auburn trusted the ground game of Jarquez Hunter, and look at the results that happened. A double-digit victory over Kentucky, their first win in conference play for 2024.
Yeah, I think going into this, I was a little surprised when this line came out for this one. It's sitting there at Auburn -7. I think it opened at 5.5, 6, depending what books you were looking at. But I'm pretty sure it's 5.5, 6. It's up to 7. I think a lot of the money is on Vanderbilt coming into this one. That line has me a little fishy with this one. This is one of the more fishier lines of the season, because I think your eyeballs, the eye test, I know some people hate that, but tells you watch all year, Vanderbilt's been the better team. And again, I don't know how many people would argue that. Obviously the record, but I don't know, is Vanderbilt hitting a stretcher? They more beat up than just the public knows. I think Diego Pavia probably is a little bit more banged up than people think. Is that why the line's big? It's interesting to me. I understand why it's up to 7 now. That has nothing to do with Vanderbilt. It's just the public moving it. But it opening up at 5.5, 6. That's interesting there. Why Auburn would be favored against Vanderbilt if you watch these two teams. Again, we've said it all year. I don't think you watch Auburn and you're like, what a terrible football team. They've just found ways to lose football games, very turnover prone. But last week, it looks like they potentially are starting to lean on that run game a little bit. Jarquez Hunter leads the SEC in rushing right ahead, just ahead of Dylan Sampson. So, again, can they go lean on Vanderbilt? I think the key is you got to get up early against Vanderbilt. I know Texas got down 7-0 off a quick interception against them, but I think got to make Vanderbilt play from behind. I think DJ Durkin and them will have a good game plan against Vanderbilt. I think the whole key to this is how healthy is Diego Pavia. We probably won't know that until Saturday.
I think the other point that we have to go ahead and give a lot of credit to is that Texas brought the fight to Nashville with a certain brand of football. The thing that has really worked for Vanderbilt all year is, number one, they don't live in third and long. They live in third and short. They're able to open up the playbook with Tim Beck to be able to capitalize and get those first downs, which leads to the second counterpoint: time of possession. They do a really good job of milking the clock and putting offenses on the back burner to where they have to capitalize and strike quick, because they know that if they don't get the ball back, then they're probably not going to see the ball moving forward. That was what Texas did. They won the line of scrimmage. They won the turnover battle. They won the time of possession. They did everything that you want to see to prove that even though this was a 3-point swing, it really never felt, for my money, that Texas was in jeopardy of losing this game. But again, Diego Pavia is going to be the storyline here. Pavia is 2-0 against Hugh Freeze. Did it at Liberty. Did it when he was at Liberty with New Mexico State. Last year, marched on in with the Aggies of New Mexico and looked like the SEC team at Jordan-Hare Stadium. He returns to a place that last season he had over 300 yards of offense, 3 touchdowns on the day, and probably pulled off one of the biggest upsets that we have seen of 2023. If that's the version that you're going to get. And Hugh Freeze kind of brought this up, and I applaud Freeze for actually mentioning that he hates playing against Diego Pavia. And he really hates playing against Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt's offense isn't exactly like the Navy offense, but what it is it is a slow tempo, methodic drive to where they will milk as much time off the clock to where your defense is going to get frustrated. And if you can make mistakes, then Vanderbilt will capitalize. And Vanderbilt has capitalized all season in opportunities like this. In the Kentucky game, they did it. In the Ball State game, they did it. In the Alabama game, they did it. So I think that that's something that we have to kind of put into consideration as well, is that Hugh Freeze has, let's just be completely real. If anybody knows how to game plan for Diego Pavia at this point, it should be Hugh Freeze because of how many times he's seen him and what he has seen work against his style of play.
Yeah, I'll be honest with Auburn. I think a replication, just a repeat of the performance against Kentucky at home would probably be good enough to win this week. I mean, if you put up 328 rushing yards and you turn the ball over once with only 6 penalties, that's probably going to do it. I mean, that's the recipe to success to beating Vanderbilt, at least from an offensive standpoint. Because, again, I don't think Vanderbilt's defense is great. I thought when they hadn't been banged up, they played the most complimentary football of anyone in the league because their offense made their defense better. I think if I'm Hugh Freeze, then I stick with Jarquez Hunter. I think he's one of the more has been all season. Some of it's not his fault with the offensive line play, not getting the carries. One of the more underrated players in the conference. Again, he leads the conference in rushing right now. Now, again, one of that's a little bit of an outlier of a performance. I mean, he went for 278 by himself this past weekend. Yeah, that's going to move you up the rushing leaderboard a little bit. But I think the key for Auburn here is can't turn the football over. And I think you got to stay ahead of the chains here. And like you said, Cole, you're only going to get so many possessions. So that's why turnovers by Peyton Thorne or by throws or exchanges to the run cannot happen because you're taking the ball early in the year, 4 to 5 turnovers a game can't happen. You'll easily lose this game. I don't care how healthy Diego Pavia is at this point. I think Auburn can take the exact same blueprint they did against Kentucky. And I know they got in a 10-0 hole early, but once they settled into that run game, thought the offensive lineman on the interior played well. Thought the Miller kid played well. Thought the tight ends, Luke Deal and them played well, sealing the edge. If you can replicate that, I think Vanderbilt can be had defensively a little bit.
I think the other point that we have to kind of take into consideration here, Dave, is that this is a team that I have said all offseason, and I know Auburn fans are kind of pissed at me because of the way I've talked about them. But I'm not being wrong when I say Auburn is masquerading as a bad football team. They're really not. And I think that last week's performance against Kentucky was the culmination of what I've been saying all offseason. When you don't have turnovers, when you trust your offensive identity and what you should have been throughout the entire year, which is the run game, which is a guy like Jarquez Hunter, which is a secondary punch into Damari Alston, you look at the benefits and you look at the outlooks and you're winning by 14. You're winning by 10 points. And that might be on display for the Tigers this weekend, especially at home. They're not a bad team. They're a fundamentally flawed team. Now, my question is that does Hugh Freeze want to mix some things up because of the way that this is an offense that can't really live in third down, where on the opposing side, Vanderbilt's top 10 in third down conversions. So do you have to trust the pass game early to where you set up a third and manageable, where a Damari Alston can get a 3-yard run for a first down, where a Jarquez Hunter can get a 7-yard run for a first down? If that's the case, does that ruin the tempo? Does that ruin what we've seen? And by the way, Auburn does have playmakers, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, Cam Coleman, and they've all stepped up at multiple times throughout the regular season. I still wonder, are we overanalyzing it if we're Auburn in this game? Because we know what Vanderbilt can do. We know what we're really good at. Are we going to switch some things up to try and get Tim Beck, to try and get Clark Lee's defense kind of feeling a little bit off the tempo? So that way, early on in this game, Auburn can set the tone.
Yeah, I think key here, too, you brought up Clark Lee. I think Auburn's going to come out probably with a pretty good game plan on the ground, but Clark Lee will adjust at half like he did against Texas. That's where Hugh Freeze, that's where Jesse Stone, Ken Austin, his coordinator, Derek Nix, guys like that, who are in his core group of offense guys, are going to have a good second half, maybe even middle of the second quarter type adjustment to combat what Vanderbilt's going to adjust with. I think Clark Lee knows well enough. He knows, like, hey, yeah, if they put together a good run game plan, which I think they can, they have one of the better running backs in the league, offensive line starting to gel a little bit in what they do. I think if I'm Clark Lee, I'm sitting here like, they're probably going to try to replicate exactly what they did last week against Kentucky, at least in the second half. If I'm Hugh Freeze, I probably do that. But there's going to have to be some adjustment there, I think, at some point, because they're going to tweak some stuff off that run game. How Clark Lee, I think that second half adjustment, Auburn's offense versus Vanderbilt's defense will be key in this one as well. That's something to keep an eye on there.
The other thing I'm going to keep an eye on is how quickly can we see the passing game work for Vanderbilt? Because of last week, they had to win through the air if they want to have a shot. Basically, the run game was kind of eviscerated, 3.6 yards per play. Yeah, you did see Diego Pavia find his way into the end zone on the opening drive for that. I think it was like 16-yard touchdown run. But for the most part, they made Diego Pavia pass. And you did see at least some life in the passing game. Only 143 passing yards, but still Junior Sherrill, 12.4 yards per play, caught a 21-yard pass. Eli Stowers, gain of 13, also had his way into the end zone. Quincy Skinner, 21 yards. Cole Spence, Lugic Fugata. Regardless, if you can attack that middle of the field, if you are Vanderbilt, does that benefit you? Because if, again, for a guy like DJ Durkin, who has not gotten a lot of credit this year for how well Auburn's defense has played at times, he's going to have to counteract the way that Clark Lee is going to have to counteract. If the run game isn't working early, do you set the pass to where maybe then you get that secondary punch to where going into the second half, you turn back to a Diego Pavia, you turn back to a Cedric Alexander, you turn back to potentially an AJ Newberry on the ground. And then once that run game is established, they're going to go ahead and corral once again. And then you set the pass, you get a Quincy Skinner, you get a Junior Sherrill, you get an Eli Stowers in the red zone for an easy 6 points.
Yeah, I think the key here, you're speaking of their passing game. I think if Auburn can get them in third and meet to long situations, I think kind of Keldrick Falk starting to come on the edge for Auburn there. I think they can have an advantage there if they can get Diego Pavia in this offense in third and long. If I'm DJ Durkin, focused on winning first and second down anyway, anyhow, get them into third and long, I think we'll be all right. Because I don't think Pavia is healthy as he has been early in the season. Again, you can make the case about a lot of people. But again, that is what is influencing why this line is so off to me a little bit. It's almost like Vegas is like, we're telling you Vanderbilt, their depth is starting to hit. I mean, we're rolling into week 10. Inevitably, they're more banged up. Diego Pavia is more banged up than everything. I saw all the public money's on Vanderbilt. I don't know. I could see Vegas making a lot of money off this one this week. But I do think keeping them in third down, getting that run game going and adjusting in the second half of that run game. Peyton Thorne's going to have to make a couple of plays for you. But if you're going into this one trying to let Peyton Thorne win this game for you, you're going to be in trouble because Vanderbilt, guys like Miles Capers, they've shown they can get to the quarterback. I think they sacked Texas 4 times last week. They sacked Alabama numerous times. So they've shown they can create some pressure if you're sitting back there. And Peyton Thorne's one of the quarterbacks in the league I trust the least. I do not want him making decisions. And like me and you talk about, Cole, turnovers. You're already going to get a limited amount of possessions against Vanderbilt, unless Auburn plays all world on defense. I do think they'll have a good game plan, but I do think just playing Vanderbilt naturally, you're not going to get a lot of possessions. So you got to get the most of them. I think they lean on what their bread and butter is right now heading into this late season momentum. But for a lot of Jarquez Hunter, I think Peyton Thorne, he could just have a little bit of an above average stat line there. Just make the simple plays, no turnovers. I do like Auburn in this one.
We always do players to watch for whenever we do previews together. I'll go first. For Vanderbilt, I'm really going to be interested in seeing Eli Stowers in this game. And the reason why is because Auburn's red zone defense has been really, really, really good this year. They're currently 7th in conversion rate. They're only allowing people to score. On 68% of drive, 14 touchdowns allowed this year. If you can get those one-on-one matchups with the linebackers or Jerian Thompson, the safety to transfer from Texas, inside the red zone, and you win that battle, I think Diego Pavia can capitalize. He can find his open target. This has been his go-to guy all season long. Their relationship from the quarterback room that has now transpired into the tight end quarterback dynamic, I think has been really beneficial. If Auburn is going to win this football game, it is forcing Vanderbilt, I think, to have to live not only in third and long, but also settle for field goals when they're inside the red zone. If Eli Stowers can find open creases, if he can find small avenues and windows to where Diego Pavia just delivers a clean strike, I think that could actually end up hurting Auburn, then it could actually help Vanderbilt.
For Vandy, I'm gonna go. Let me see. I'm gonna go. Brought up my depth chart. I'm going to go the Randon Fontenette kid. He's been playing good recently. The TCU kid plays that star spot, somewhat of a linebacker, plays in the box. I think he's going to be key to setting this edge, holding up on the perimeter of this run game, this outside zone scheme that I think Auburn you could see a little bit this week with Jarquez Hunter, Damari Alston, even factor in Peyton Thorne a little bit. I think Randon Fontenette will be key. He's been a good defender for Vanderbilt this whole year. So I think he's someone I'm watching on from a defensive perspective for Vanderbilt. So I think stopping that run is going to determine if Vanderbilt's going to win this football game.
For Auburn, for me, it's very simple. It's Cam Coleman. I feel like that this is one of those games where you brought him in to be the 5-star phenom, the can't-miss player that is going to deliver, that is going to show why he is the number one alpha of this team. Keandre Lambert-Smith has been that guy. I think Vanderbilt knows that Keandre Lambert-Smith can be that guy. I feel like that this is going to be a performance where you're only going to get a handful of big-time plays from Peyton Thorne. They probably should go to number 8. When you look at the matchups for the secondary, Vanderbilt allowed far too many explosive plays last weekend against Texas. I'm not saying that Auburn has weapons as good as Texas. What I am saying is Auburn does have weapons. They're not just a slouch that trusts their run game with Jarquez Hunter. I want to see what a guy like Cam Coleman can do against the secondary, how he can attack in the open field, how he can live up to those big explosive plays that we saw when he was coming out of high school. If he does that, I think Auburn has a very good shot of winning this game and blowing the doors off of Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'm going to go with just one position. I don't mean to name two guys, but they just kind of rotate them as they did. Rivaldo Fairweather, Luke Neal. I thought they did a really good job watching that game. They had both the LSU A&M game and then Auburn, Kentucky. So I felt a little more inclined to have to go back and watch that game just to lock in a little more. Those tight ends did a really good job of sealing the edge and helping Jarquez Hunter just have to go make a play at the second level and just make one guy miss before he was even touched. And that's where Jarquez Hunter excels. I think if the tight ends, again, Fairweather and Luke Neal, have that kind of game on the inside zone, outside zone, where they're pulling, they're being that Y sniffer, I think it's going to be a long day for Vanderbilt. I think those two guys will be key in getting this running game going on Saturday.
Dave, let's log in some predictions. Kickoff at 11:45, SEC Network, Jordan-Hare Stadium. Line set at -7 in favor of the Tigers. They need a win because if they lose, they have to win out to be bowl eligible. If Vanderbilt wins, they are bowl eligible. So, in your opinion, knowing everything that's at stake, knowing what we saw last week, the transition of Auburn, the minor miscues for Vanderbilt, who comes out on top?
Man, I'll be honest with you. Usually lines don't freak me out. And even when I worked in it, I'd go check it out just because, Vegas does a lot of this data. They have a lot of good information. Again, these big, phenomenal buildings are not up there for no reason. They make a lot of money. This line opening up at 5.5, 6, whatever bet, book it, whatever bet you look at, whatever place you're looking at getting your lines that it opened up at now at 7, has me thinking Diego Pavia is not healthy and Vanderbilt's a little bit banged up. I think Auburn is coming in this game in a good spot. Good momentum win. Florida ran a lot on Kentucky, but it was a little more chunk plays. It was just, I think I looked at it, not 197. They were just south of 200 rushing yards 2 weeks ago against Kentucky. Auburn went over 350 on these dudes, and it was in the second half. It looked with these. Does Auburn kind of have some late season momentum going a little bit? Again, I'm not saying they're going to win 8 games. They're just begging to get to 6. But you said all year, is this kind of a 2-3 week stretch? I picked them back-to-back weeks. I thought they would get one of these road games, either at Missouri or at Kentucky. I thought that may springboard them towards a back half, potentially going to get 6 wins. Maybe they're heading to the Iron Bowl with 6 wins. I just think right now at home it's a good spot. They're getting Vanderbilt's getting banged up a little bit. Their depth isn't like a lot of these other teams. If there's ever a time to get Vanderbilt, it's always on the back half of your schedule. I don't know. I trust DJ Durkin to have a phenomenal game plan. I think a guy like DeMarcus Riddick could be key in this game at the linebacker spot over for Auburn. I think he's somebody to watch in regard to defending Diego Pavia. Getting him into the 3rd and long, I think we see that more than Vanderbilt's been in. I think the running game gets going. Again, I don't think it's going to be 250 again, but I think it's going to be close to 175, 200. I think Auburn gets it going. I like the tight ends. I think Auburn gets another big win. Back-to-back, Hugh Freeze gets his 2nd win. Give me Auburn 28-20. I think they cover by what now? It'd just be covering by a point. But I think the open line had been by 2.5, 3. But I think Auburn gets this game 28-20.
I think Auburn last week showed you truly who they are as a program. And I think that's a major step in the right direction for Hugh Freeze. I think it's a major step for the rest of the season. And if they want to close out the year where 7-5 is possible, where potentially they're going to a bowl game, where they're upsetting Alabama in the Iron Bowl, it starts with the continuation of last week and this week. That's the way I feel. I feel like this is going to be a game where you will see both Jarquez Hunter and Damari Alston have their carries. I feel like that you will watch Peyton Thorne have a couple of big-time throws, whether it be to Keandre Lambert-Smith, Rivaldo Fairweather, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson. I agree with you on one major point. This defense is slowly kind of falling into that underrated category because we're not giving them their flowers. I think if they put on a showcase in this game to where it really does feel like a 4-quarter battle. They eliminate the rushing attack early on. This is a game where you're going to have to see Diego Pavia win through the air. I think that there will be a couple of miscues at times. He may even have a turnover because I agree with you. I don't think he's fully healthy. With that being said, and the way that I have thought about this all year, there are sometimes just villains in college football, in life in general, that is always your kryptonite. And there is nothing you can do. You can prepare for it. You can plan around it. You can have the best game plan ever possible, and one play will be the determining factor in a win or a loss. And Diego Pavia is Baba Yaga. Diego Pavia is John Wick screaming, "I'm thinking I'm back," down at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Diego Pavia is the thorn in the side of Hugh Freeze that is twisting and turning and not going away quietly anytime soon, to where even surgery will slightly mitigate the pain, but you're still stuck with it. That is Diego Pavia taking on Hugh Freeze. That is Diego Pavia when he plays against an opponent that he is vastly underranked against. That is Diego Pavia when he is doubted, and I'm not doubting him. I'm not doubting that he can't go back to Jordan-Hare Stadium and create that magic that he saw last year with the Aggies. I think if they get this win, I think they're going to be bowl eligible for the first time in nearly a decade. This is unfortunately the only straw that breaks Hugh Freeze's back. It is Diego Pavia doing Diego Pavia shit and making it look freaking awesome. I got a final score: Vanderbilt 27, Auburn 21.
He's going to be running for the governor. K. Ivy, step over, baby. It's 3 games against the state of Alabama in a calendar year.
We got an election finishing on November 5th. We're going to see a lot of write-ins, I think, for Diego Pavia. But who do you have coming out on top? Do you agree with Dave that's going to be Auburn? Do you agree with me that's going to be Vanderbilt? Do you agree that Diego Pavia is basically Hugh Freeze's daddy and the owner of the Yellowhammer State? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Make sure that you download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow Dave at Mach 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I am Cole Thompson. War Eagle, anchor down. Regardless, just give us a damn good game out in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Peace.